Welcome to the Journey 2020. I'm Charles Morris, happy to be here with you. Coming off the weekend, looked like we finally got a little bit of rain, yay, that we needed here in the Central Florida area. Anyway, hope everyone accomplished and did what they needed to do previously for Mother's Day. I got a call from my aunt. I missed a call this past weekend. My aunt is 85 years old and called her back, but especially at these times where you look and you realize, see, when you're young, you don't look at how precious time is, right? And I was mentioning that my aunt called me. She called from time to time, and it's always great to hear from her. And I'm thinking back previously to Mother's Day, and I'm sitting here going, Father's Day is coming up real soon as well. And there's always the joke of what fathers talk about when it comes to, and I don't think that you can compare like Father's Day to Mother's Day. That's a waste of, because we all know mothers, and it's not a complaint, anything like that, but it's kind of like a little inside joke about the gifts that fathers receive, or I guess the whole day of Father's Day versus Mother's Day, and how we look at the two, rightfully so, by the way. And that's the joke that we always, men, fathers who understand, be like, Mother's Day is Mother's Day, Father's Day is Father's Day, and it is what it is, right? Give me that handkerchief and give me that tie, and let's be happy. But anyway, I was saying that it's always such a wonderful, well, I don't say experience, but it's always great to hear my aunt's voice and the life that's in her at the age of 85. And she's still playing golf, and she's saying, I'm out here beating these men, and da-da-da-da. And so I'm looking forward to talking to her. It's always a pleasure. And I say that to say, if you get a chance to reach out to family members and friends, especially those who are elderly, take advantage of that opportunity, because I said previously, the week before, for Mother's Day, I lost my mom over 20 years ago. And now, the older I get, the more I wish that I had time spent with her, that things and questions and conversations that I didn't even think about. Now it's like, wow, if I had to do it all over again, conversation and time, definitely priceless, endless. So how did we get on that conversation? I don't know. But anyway, this is the Journey 2020. I'm Charles Morris, and I have a little something special for you for today's show. I'm taking the highlights of this past weekend of the Florida Democratic Black Caucus. I'm taking a few of the speakers, and I want you to listen to what they had to say, because I don't want to make this long, but the older I get, the more I try to have the perspective of the reality. And a lot of us don't have the true perspective of the reality. And it's like good versus evil. And what does that mean? And I've been blown away that each time, because since 2013, I've been working with the Florida Democratic Black Caucus when they come to town with their conferences. And what I mean by blown away is, to my ignorance itself, to hear the speakers talk about what they're fighting for. And you always like, you got to fight for that? But it's very obvious now, the truth is there. And so if you're not truly understanding the state that we're in and what we really have to fight for now, we're going to be worse off than what we are now for what they're trying to do, that is so blatant and obvious who they are, what they are, and how they see us. So I'm not a politician. I wouldn't be good at it because I don't know how to dummy down and I don't know how to play that role. I only know the honesty and to say the truth, the truth, the truth. And I don't pick words to come across politically correct. Right is right, wrong is wrong. So that's why I would make a good politician. If a snake is a snake, I say it's a snake. I don't know what else to do. So please pay attention to, I think I have 4 speakers that you get a chance to see from the highlights of this week conference. The Democratic Black Conference. And the title of the conference, Remembering the Past, Fighting for Our Future, and how true that is. The first person that you're going to hear is Sean Shaw. Mr. Shaw made history back in 2018 as the first black nominee for the Attorney General in the history of Florida. And so he has quite an interesting spiel, so make sure that you pay attention. After Mr. Shaw, you will hear from Nikki Fried. She is the chair of the Florida Democratic Party. And of course, locally, here in the Central Florida area, you will recognize Orange County Mayor Jerry Demings as well. And then you will hear Representative Maxwell Frost. So you are invited to please pay attention, listen closely, and I think that you will start to understand what it means by what this conference was entitled for the 40th year anniversary.
Good afternoon. I'm Sean Shaw. I'm honored to be here. So I'm looking around the room, and if you remember, I was your Attorney General nominee in 2018, and some of you all were so good to me. In fact, all of you all were so good to me. And when I traveled around the state, you were so good. You were so good in your communities, and you welcomed me to your communities and opened yourself up and made it so your communities welcomed me. And I will never forget that experience. I often tell people running for statewide office was the most educational, enlightening, fulfilling experience of my life, not just politically, but personally, because you learn about this state, you learn about people, you learn about what people want, what motivates people, and it was just glorious. And a lot of people are asking, one day we'll be back, but not right now. Right now I just MC and I MC events. That's what old retired politicians do. They put us out to pasture. But if you are from Duval County, stand up. Now, I am telling you, Duval County did it. And you all deserve a round of applause, because Duval did what a lot of people did not think we would do, and that's elect a Democratic mayor. That was a Freudian slip. A Democratic mayor. I was born in Jacksonville, and so I'm glad to see that. And I know Jacksonville, and boy, that's impressive. I'm so happy to see it. I texted Donna, and you know what Jacksonville proves? A lot of things. One, it proves that candidates matter. When you have the right candidate at the right time with the right message and don't get caught up in a lot of the other stuff going on. Donna stayed true to who she was and what her plan was. It was a whole bunch of foolishness with the other side killing themselves. Donna didn't get involved. She stayed here, projected an image of someone who was competent, someone who would be a good mayor, someone who wasn't a crazy person like they try to make us sometimes. And Donna won. And that is, I think, the platform, the blueprint for us to win going forward. And so Duval, give yourselves a round of applause, because that's impressive. Now, I want to talk, I don't have long, because I was told I don't have long. You know how y'all black people do when they ask you to come speak. But I want to talk about something that you all know, and that's the power that you have, okay? I hear a lot of times that we like to chase everything else but what we got, okay? Let me talk about the coalition that we have as Democrats. It doesn't work unless black folk turn out. okay? Nothing else matters until you get past that. So we like to chase NPAs. We like to chase disaffected Republicans. We like to chase the Hispanic vote. We like to chase, those things are important. Don't get on Twitter and say, Sean, talk junk about all those people. Don't do that. What I'm telling you is, that's the second step. The first step is you got to turn us out, because if we do not turn out at a clip of 90-some%, none of it works. That is all icing. All of those other entities are icing on the electoral cake. We bake the cake. And if we don't come out at 90%, it all falls apart. And sometimes I think that, one, our party doesn't understand that, and two, we don't understand that. And we don't understand the power that we do have, not only in this party, but nationally. When you start seeing turnout numbers of black people at 80% and lower, I can show you an election that was lost. That is when we lose, when we show up at clips that are 85 and lower, and that's a really high turnout rate. But when black folks don't turn out at those 90% rates, we're not winning those elections. And the way to get us to turn out at those rates is to talk to us just like you would talk to anyone else. Don't talk to us about prisons. Don't talk to us about things that you think are important to us like that. Don't talk to us about things just like everybody else. Jobs. Talk to us how expensive it is to live in this state. Talk to us about our kids having the ability to go to a good school and be taught what they ought to be taught in terms of all kinds. Talk to us the way that you talk to everyone else in this state. Do not talk to us in these small silos of issues that you think is what we want to hear, because it's not, and you end up turning us off, and you end up having us not turn out to where we need to turn out to. And then it leads to the next thing I want to talk, which is the apathy of the black voter, which I know we all feel. You know, my brothers will understand this when we go to the barbershop. I used to get into debates about LeBron versus Jordan. That's not the debate I get in anymore. The debate I get in now, unfortunately, is why Donald Trump and DeSantis aren't that bad. And it's a debate that started happening during COVID, when the owner of the barbershop told me, I don't like what Trump's doing, and I don't like DeSantis that much, but he kept this barbershop open during COVID. It was his rules that kept this barbershop open. That was that snapshot in time, and I was a little worried at that time that I was going to the black barbershop trying to get a fade, and the dude next to me had a MAGA hat on. That was literally happening. Fast forward to where we are now, and the one thing DeSantis and Republicans have done for us, they made our message easy. Because now when I go to the barbershop, it's no longer a debate. The parties are not the same. That used to be what used to get to me. All are the same. It doesn't matter. Politics is all, not anymore. No, it ain't. Name a book the Democrats have banned. See the silence? Name some diversity and equity initiatives that Democrats have banned. All these things that DeSantis and Republicans are doing, it is them. It's not Democrats, and it is making it clear as day that there is a difference between the parties. So now when I go to the barbershop, the debate is a lot different. The debate now is, man, you're right, this dude's just a straight up racist, isn't he, Sean? I told you that 5 years ago. But the debate is a lot different now, and that ought to make our jobs easier to go to our apathetic brothers and sisters and tell them, no, the parties aren't the same. Because I'm going to tell you, sometimes it is hard for me to go into my community and try to talk about why you need to be on my team versus the other team. I'm going to be very candid in this room, okay? Sometimes I think my team needs to do a little bit better in a lot of ways. Sometimes I get mad at my own team. Sometimes my team ain't talking about their wins like I think they ought to. Sometimes I don't think my team tells its story as good as it should. But damn it, it's better than the other team. That's the point. And so when I go to that barbershop now, it is getting across that the other team are straight up Proud Boys, nationalists, and racists. That's what they've tried to project, and guess what? Congratulations, you made it. Because now, if it's permeating now all the way to the barbershop, then it's where it needs to be, because now the debate is no longer everyone is the same, everyone acts the same. Now it is, God, you won't even let us teach history? All these barbers have kids in schools. So now one white parent can object to one Zora Neale Hurston book. That book is now under review, and you won't get to see it. That's where we are. So if they've done us anything, they've done us a favor of crystallizing the difference between the two and crystallizing what we're fighting for and making it. Because listen, you admit it, you and I and you in this room, we are the ones that in our communities everyone looks to. You know how many phone calls I get from random people like, what is DeSantis doing? Well, shit, I don't know. I ain't elected no more. Why y'all keep calling me? But I know you get those same calls. What is going on? Why is this state like this? Can't we do something about this? What do we do about this? Well, you're going to find out, I think, at this conference what you can do about it. And the one constant that you're going to have is we have to participate in voting at a higher level. That is the end-all, be-all. We want to talk around it. I know you want to say that. I don't care. My party is better than the other party every day of the week and twice on Sundays. I said that the other day. Okay, and I'm going to bring up someone who's taken the job of party chair and I think is leading us on a place. Use my Baptist handkerchief here real quick. I'm going to introduce someone that has taken, I think, the hardest job in Florida politics, and that's to be chair of your party, because you know, if you are the chair of a local party, if you are the head of a club or a caucus, you know how hard it is sometimes to lead us Democrats, and I want you to understand that Nikki has taken a job that is extremely difficult, under extremely trying circumstances. Right after that DeSantis 20-point win, that's when she took the job. She didn't take the job after the Jacksonville mayor's race. She took it after the DeSantis win. And a lot of us understood that we needed someone like Nikki to take this job. And when I talked about the power of the people in this room, black folks, y'all got Nikki elected, okay? I just want everyone to understand in this room. Nikki got elected because of the people in this room. And so we ought to understand, and we understand in this room, but we need to make sure that we don't forget and make sure that we act like it sometimes. I get tired, and I'm going to go back to this. I understand that there are other members of our Democratic coalition that deserve attention. And I don't want to minimize those other parts of the coalition. We are essential to the coalition's success. There is no coalition without black folks. And it is condescending, it's insulting, gets on our last damn nerve when everyone gets attention and resources and promises and time but us. And then you wonder why we don't turn out like you want us to. You don't get us. You don't get the goodness of us without work. And sometimes our party doesn't put in the work, but I know we're going to start doing that. It's one of the reasons I supported Nikki to be chair, because Nikki said the right things. Nikki did the right things. Nikki had the right history to do it, and I believe that she's the right person at this time. And this job is hard, right? And I don't have to tell y'all that it requires someone who is willing to listen, someone who's willing to be told they're wrong even if they're right, someone who is willing to come to places and take questions and sometimes take criticisms, someone who's willing to come at night to a room full of 20 Democrats, and that's all there are, but they can't wait to hear the party chair talk to them. This job is hard. And particularly in Florida right now, this is not an easy job. The person that is going to lead us to the next level is someone like Nikki, who knows what it takes to be a candidate, knows what it takes to raise money, knows what it takes to talk to people, knows what it takes to travel, knows what it takes to be in rooms that sometimes don't like you. If you've been a candidate for statewide office in this state, you've been in a room full of people that don't like you. Because I have been too. It wasn't many rooms, but it was some. Y'all were very good to me at the time, but we've all been in rooms where people don't like us. Being the FDP chair, that's a lot of rooms. But the point is not that. The point is to understand who we are fighting against are evil. Who we are fighting against it's no longer just a disagreement on tax policy or a disagreement on whether we ought to get involved in foreign affairs. You're dealing with a party of Proud Boys, nationalists, racists, people that don't want anyone to have an abortion except their mistresses to go to another state. That's who our opposition is now. And so you need someone that is not just someone of yesteryear who's fighting the Democratic-Republican battles of 10 and 20 and 30 years ago. It's someone that understands we are fighting against a party who no longer has a soul. It is now a party co-opted by grievance and racism. And that person who's the chair of our party is Nikki Fried. Nikki, come on up. Thank you.
I moved this down a little bit, Sean. You're a little taller than I am. But Sean's right on so many fronts. You know, first of all, I always, and I think you all have heard me say this over the last few years, thank you. Because I have complete confidence that I would not be standing here, not only as your chair, but as your past Commissioner of Agriculture, if it wasn't for the Black community. And I said this during the convention last year when you so graciously gave me your nomination and your endorsement for governor. But I also know that in 2018, y'all didn't come out for me. You came out for Andrew. But because you came out in such a strong force for Andrew, that it took me over the finish line. And so every day I am so grateful and so humbled by the Black community of our state, because Sean is right that we can't do all of this without the support of the Black community. And I said that throughout my 4 years as Commissioner of Agriculture, that what it takes to make our state successful. And you know, and I'm going to say this before Sean leaves, because we flipped a coin of who was going to do this chair thing. I got the short straw. But no, I'm so humbled by your support and your continued support and your continued leadership here in our state. And so thank you, Sean, for continuing to show up and to show the rest of our state what a great leader you are. So thank you. But I also wanted, you all know what's going on in our state. And I think that for so many years, people were, to Sean's point, people kept saying, well, he wasn't that bad. He's not that bad. March of 2020, I stood in front of my office, March of 2020, and I called him a dictator. Everybody thought that I had lost my mind and said, what is she doing? She's a statewide official calling her governor a dictator. And I said, I'm watching up close and personal to what is happening on the ground inside of cabinet meetings, seeing what legislation was being filed. And it took, unfortunately, the last 2 legislative sessions for everybody to start waking up. And, you know, I wasn't planning on running for chair. Let me tell you what pushed me over the edge. The filing of HB 999. I had been sitting on my couch for about 6 weeks as I started watching, as I no longer was in office. And I started watching all these pieces of legislation being filed. And I said, no, they can't be doing this. Oh my God, they're doing this. And then when that piece of legislation filed, I said, that's it. I got to get off my butt and get into the room and get into action, because I understood the impact. Even if it didn't pass, the fact that that was even proposed and the rhetoric that came with it, I knew that I could no longer sit on the sidelines, that I had to get into this arena and continue doing what I've been doing, is fighting back. Let me tell you, as I travel the entire state and as I talk to people across the entire country, and they say to me, is Florida on the map? Can we win back our state? And I'm going to correct Sean on this. I will never give Ron DeSantis the notion that he won by 19 points. We lost by 19 points. We saw a Democratic Party that completely crumbled. And we saw that by not engaging, by not engaging every part of our communities, not talking, not listening, not doing the work on the ground. Because look, at the end of the day, we are all here because we are engaged. But there's about 22 million people that aren't like us, that aren't engaged, aren't watching the news every single day, aren't getting their news anymore from mainstream media, aren't getting their news anymore from just going on to social media. So we've got to go to them. And we stop doing that as Democrats. We stop going to the door knocking. We stop going to the souls to the polls. We stop going to the churches, because I know that so many of our churches went home and now everything is on virtual. So we got to figure out how to get to people, and I'm saying now, because we all hear this consistently throughout the years. Where have you been for 2 years? Why are you coming now? Do you only care about my vote? What have you been doing for my community for the last 2 years? And we have to answer those questions by coming now, by start to do the work today. And I had an interesting conversation with James Carville on Wednesday. And he calls me up, he goes, all right, Nick, what happened in Duval? He's like, did black people turn out? And I said, James, they did. They did in record numbers, and we saw the results. He's like, so talk to me. Talk to me about what's happening with the rest of the state. How are we making sure that we understand, and I'm going to say something also very true that we have to understand. Joe Biden is running for president. And we've got to do everything possible to make sure that he is elected again in November of 24. And what James and I had talked about was we understood that in 2020, the only reason why Joe Biden won the presidency in 2020 was because of the black community across the nation. And in order for us to get back there and to make sure that we overcome the fact that he is a little bit older and a little bit more seasoned, which in his mind that shows us he is more experienced, is to make sure that we are consistently elevating his accomplishments. The things that he's been able to do in these last 3.5 years are remarkable. Remarkable. The types of infrastructure investments that he's bringing back to our states. The fact that he has been able to cap insulin is a tremendous, tremendous saving to so many people in our country. The amount of judges that he's been able to appoint, and not just judges, diverse judges. And of course, the appointment of the first black female Supreme Court justice. And I do hold this a little place in my heart. Ketanji and I went to the same high school. So she's a couple years older than I am, but showing that type of support for this community and saying thank you is going to make such a difference for generations to come. The judicial system is the last pendulum swing. If you look at any part of history, the last thing that goes on either side of the pendulum is the judiciary. Now the pendulum has to swing back. Has to swing back because we have gone to such an extreme, crazy time. And I don't see any of our legislators in this room, but I know that there's a whole bunch that are coming this weekend. Say thank you. Say thank you. Because every single day they were going into the lion's den. Every day. And they had to get up there every day and put their hearts on their sleeves, have some of the most emotionally driven statements and debate that I have ever seen, to know that at the end of their emotional appeal, that their colleagues were still going to vote against them. And they had to get up the next morning and do it all over again. And the fact that they're still wanting to run for office and continue to bring back that fight next legislative session. We know that we hit the iceberg last year. And yes, everybody kept saying, wait, you're jumping on the Titanic after they hit the iceberg? And I said, yes, but we also knew that there was lifeboats. And that is where we are. And you're seeing a different Democratic Party. You're seeing us respond every single time that there's nonsense in the news. You're seeing our interactions with our elected officials, which we have not seen in a very long time. You're seeing us come together and lift up each other. But you're also seeing your chair and your minority leader getting in some good trouble. And so I astound to the shirt that I wear every single day, because at the end of the day, we have to go effing vote. That is what it's going to take. And it's going to take us all going into every part of our state and every part of our community, because there is so much on the line. And I know that every year people keep saying this is the most important election of our lifetime. Democracy is without a doubt on the ballot. It is on the ballot not just here for the state of Florida, but for the entire country. And what I vowed every single day that I wake up, that is two promises that I make to the people of our state and to the nation. One, we are never going to have a November 22 ever again. Ever again. And two, Ron DeSantis is never going to be president of the United States. We cannot afford, because people ask me all the time, how bad could it be? I said, let's talk about a guy who's going to get up there to the White House. First thing he does is dismantle the Voting Rights Act. Second thing he does is he goes back and he takes away funding from our HBCUs. The third thing that he does is he eliminates same-sex marriage and equal protections. And that is just on day one of his administration. This guy is unhinged, and there's going to be nobody better to carry the story than us Floridians. So I'm asking Floridians to do a couple of things. One, continue sharing the stories on social media, continuing to tell your friends and your family members that live outside of the state of Florida, because the nation has gotten this story wrong. January, February of this year, our vice president was coming to Tallahassee on the anniversary of Roe v. Wade. And I got the phone calls from the White House saying, Nikki, can you help us secure a location? I said, sure, this shouldn't be so difficult. Vice President of the United States is coming to Tallahassee. So I called Dr. Robinson over at FAMU, and I said, Dr. Robinson, do you have space on campus to host the vice president as she comes to talk about how important Roe v. Wade is for our society and for healthcare and for access? I got a phone call back from his administration, and they said, Nikki, we can't do this. And I said, I got it. I understand. I understood. And I then got a reporter called me about a couple days later and said, I heard that FAMU couldn't and wouldn't host the Vice President of the United States. And I said, that is correct. And they said, well, why were you involved? And I had to go through a little bit of a story about my background. And they said, well, why? And I spent 30 minutes schooling this New York Times reporter of all the things that have been happening in our state. And all the things of removing state attorneys, going after school boards, going after our Black community, going after our LGBTQ plus community, going after our teachers, our parents, our professors. By the time that I was done with 30 minutes on the phone with her, she goes, oh my God, I had no idea. And I said, yes, because the national media has gotten this story wrong. For so long, they spent all of this time trying to take down Trump by lifting up DeSantis as the better version. And now you see they're backpedaling. Every single station, every single newspaper is going back and saying, whoops, whoops. But now it is our time to help frame him on the national stage. We have that power. But let me tell you something. I need you all. I need you all every single day. I hear all the time, and we've all heard this for years. Where's the party? Where's the party? Why isn't the party doing this? Why isn't the party doing this? We are the party. We are the party. So I'm going to continue to say this. Don't ask what the party can do for you. Ask what you can do for the party. So we are going to be doing this differently, but I'm going to need each and every one of you that when you're done with this inspiring weekend, that you go home and you say, what else can I do? Can I go and volunteer at my DEC an extra hour a week? Can I go and volunteer at our local Black Caucus an extra couple of hours? Can I go do phone banking? Can I go do call time? Can I go help raise money for the party? Can I go do door knocking? Because we've got to get back onto those doors. And the other thing that I'm asking for Democrats across the state to do, $5. $5. If 250,000 Democrats across the state give $5 a month, that's one Starbucks run less. That's $1.2 million for our party every single month. That money goes into voter registration. That money goes into helping to get us back onto the vote by mail list, which we have to make sure is a priority for our state. We have a 3-to-1 ratio when it comes to VBMs. We've got to get those back on the list. That money goes into outreach. That money goes into our minority communities. So this is where that money goes towards. But we're also going to be doing a couple other things differently. I have appointed 4 incredible vice chairs, and we have one that is sitting in our audience. And each one of our vice chairs is tasked with a different area. So we have Karen, who is focusing on interfaith relations, and so pulling together a priority on their interfaith. I have appointed Rick Hoy as one of our other vice chairs to be in charge of Black outreach. Natasha Otero, who's going to be in charge of Hispanic outreach. And so we're already showing emphasis, including changing of my budget, where I've put $200,000 into the budget to focus solely on Black outreach. That is media, that is getting out onto the ground, and is doing the hard work that needs to get done. And we also have created a statewide youth program. And we already have 35 to 40, 35-year-olds and under. Everything from college Dems to high school Dems to young Dems and some of the Dem organizations that are already doing the work on the ground. Congressman Frost is the advisor to this. And we are going to hire a statewide youth coordinator who is going to help mobilize the entire youth generation. And we're going to have 2 deputies, one in charge of Greek life, because we know that the D9 organize like nobody else. And we're also going to have a deputy that's going to be in charge of campus life, putting a volunteer, a coordinator, or director on every one of our SUS and our 3 additional HBCUs and our other 3 large private universities. This way, we are showing momentum on the ground because this generation's pissed. This generation is pissed, and rightfully so. They have gone after this generation, trying to make it harder for them to vote, telling their teachers they can't put safe spaces up on walls, going after their colleagues and friends in the LGBTQ plus community, and they have been doing active shooting drills in their schools since they can remember. They are coming after the Republican Party. And it is our job to inspire and give them access to the Florida Democratic Party. So we are going to do that and making sure that this next generation has a seat at the table, not when they're 35 and 40, now. Because we also know this, that we have the 2nd largest college and university population outside of California. This generation is going to make the change that we need so desperately on the ground. But we're going to do it together. Every step of the way, we're going to do it together. You all have my cell phone numbers, I feel like most of you in this room. You all know that I take your phone calls, I take your text messages, because this has to be a team effort. This is going to be a different Democratic Party, and you saw what happened on Tuesday. You saw in Duval that when you have the right candidates up and down the ballot, that we now have the first female mayor of Jacksonville, the first black female property appraiser, and we have so many dynamic members of the city council at this point. But that didn't happen overnight. This was because for the first time you saw the Democratic Party lean heavily into this election. You saw FDP, we had calls on a consistent basis. We leaned in with our local DEC chair, Daniel Henry. We also had the DNC on every one of our calls, leaning in, doing phone banking. We asked our DECs and our clubs and our caucuses across the state to be making phone calls. The Women's Club did over 8,000 postcards. And so when Democrats come together and talk about the issues, we win. We know that. And the energy that came out of Tuesday is catapulting us across the entire country. The amount of phone calls that we have gotten since Tuesday is inspiring. From Jamie Harrison to J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, to a little mouse down the street. They are really excited about our Tuesday win. And we know that we know how to win. And so Tuesday was part of the inspiration, and the Democrats are fired up, the NPAs are fed up, and the Republicans are giving up. So, we all know that the pendulum swings in two directions. And it takes a force of energy to swing the pendulum back. Let us be that force of energy, because I know that we can get this done for 24.
Good evening, Democrats. Let me acknowledge my bride, the Honorable former Congresswoman Val Butler Demings, who is here as well. Yes. We are so honored to have you here within our community to celebrate this 40th anniversary of the Democratic Party Caucus, Black Democratic Party Caucus of Florida. Tonight, you join many of those who have served before you and who are presently serving. We're honored to have all of the elected officials and others who are here within our community tonight. In spite of some of the drama that you heard that's been going on between our governor and Disney here within our community, I want you to know that we do welcome you with open arms. We are honored to have you, and we do celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion in this community. I do want to acknowledge the great work that Tim Ayers has been doing, and we do celebrate the new leadership with Trevor coming into office as well, and the entire cabinet. We look forward to working with you to make the great state of Florida all that it can be, and to ensure that we have Black representation at the table. I have been honored to now serve in this community for 42 years in various roles as a public servant. Honored to be serving as the first elected Orange County Black mayor, and just happened to be serving in my second and final term in office, because here in Orange County we do have term limits. I cannot serve for more than 2 consecutive 4-year terms, but we don't know what God has in store after that. But what I can say to you is that what a privilege it is to represent the 1.5 million plus people who call Orange County home, and to welcome you here to this community where in 2022, more than 74 million visitors came to visit us in this community, and that is because we have demonstrated to many that we are an inclusive, welcoming community. And thank you for coming and spending your hard-earned dollars within our community. Somehow there's a trickle-down effect. The money that you spend in our community makes its way into our pockets, including mine, and this is how we take care of our families. I know my wife can attest to that. Am I right about it, sweetheart? There we go. All right. But I wish I could stay with you throughout the evening, but we're doing double duty tonight because the African American Chamber just happens to have this annual gala here tonight as well, and we're on program to say a few words there as well. And so don't count it against me if we leave. It's just that that's what happens sometimes. We have to stretch ourselves thin to make certain that we get to all of the various events. And so, again, we're honored to have you here within Orange County, and we look forward to seeing you soon. God bless you all.
Good evening. Good evening. It's a little somber in here. How y'all feeling? There we go. Well, good evening, Florida Democratic Black Caucus. I'd like to welcome you to Central Florida and welcome you to Florida's 10th Congressional District, which I have the honor of representing in the United States Congress. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Before I get started, I just want to take a moment to thank Mayor Demings for his words. Thank you to the entire organization, President Mallory, Vice Presidents Forrest and Ayers, all the regional directors, appointed officers, and committee chairs, and also Congresswoman Val Demings as well for being here. Thank you. And to all of our other elected officials, I see some amazing. I see Yvonne Davis here. I saw Rita Harris. So thank you all for being here. And I also want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all the hotel staff. Thank you so much for making this possible today. Thank you for your work. For those of you who don't know me, I am Congressman Maxwell Frost, proud resident, and this is where I was born and raised. For me, I got involved in politics for one simple reason, and I said this earlier in the panel we were in. It's because I didn't want to get shot in school. And I remember being 15 years old and seeing on the television screen before a jazz band concert, seeing that somebody walked into an elementary school in Newtown, Connecticut, murdering 20 children and 6 teachers. The impact it had on me, I remember it to this day. And that was my call to action that got me involved into politics in the first place. And like so many of us in this room, I didn't have a choice. I knew that if I wanted to see the change, I had to be the change. And that's why I decided to become an organizer. I have to imagine that regardless of our different calls to actions, what binds us here is the fact that we believe in a better world. We believe that a better world is possible. And nearly a decade into my work, 2020 rolls around. I go on Twitter one morning and see a video of a black man being lynched in broad daylight, George Floyd. I remember being tear gassed, maced, arrested, jailed during nonviolent protests here in the streets of Orlando, now having the honor of representing those same streets in Congress. But when I think about that moment, and when I think about what it did to this country, it did activate a whole new generation of voters, activists, organizers to be involved in their political process. A few of those people came up to me in early 2021 and said, Maxwell, it looks like there might be a congressional seat opening up. You should think about running for it. First thing I said was, hell no. I said, I'm not running for Congress. And I won't lie to you, the reason I said that isn't just because I would have huge shoes to fill in Congresswoman Val Demings, but also because I didn't think I was ready. It's interesting because in that race, this is what people would use against me. I was too young. I didn't have the experience. I wasn't ready. And to be completely honest with y'all, I thought those same things before I announced as well. But what changed everything for me was meeting people in the community that had faith and saw something in me when I didn't see it in myself. One of those people being my biological mother. Having a conversation with her for the first time in my life, getting to learn about the conditions of my birth, that I had 8 siblings, that she came from poverty, not because she's a bad person, but because she was a woman of color, born in a zip code that was forgotten about by government. and hearing about her story, hearing about where she came from, and how it was so intertwined in the politics that I believe in, I said I have to run for Congress. I have to run for people like my biological mother, for people like my mother who came here from Cuba in the late 1960s with no money and no English, and in 2 weeks will retire from the school system for 37 years of public service and education. But I also now realize that the fact that I see myself represented in government as a young person was part of the problem. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't just complain and that I was part of the solution. And that's why I decided to run in the first place. I ran because I was tired of seeing kids gunned down in the streets due to gun violence. I ran because we understand that we have an existential climate crisis that we have to band together to defeat. I ran because I saw them come for our civil rights, our voting rights, Black history, banning books, and realize that in this moment, we need heroes to stand up. And that's not to call any one person a hero, but the fact that when the movement comes together, it gives us the people power we need to win. That people power is why I stand before you today as a member of Congress. That people power is why we can all be here today, enjoying the rights and liberties afforded to us. And oftentimes people come up to me and say, Maxwell, the young people will save us. And I get it. But I want to say it shouldn't have to be up to the young people to save us. We need a multiracial, multi-generational movement of people coming together, no matter who you are, to fight for the world that we deserve. And as a young person, I also recognize that I would not be here if it wasn't for the ancestors and elders that fought tooth and nail, organized despite what was going on, so that way I could have a chance. I say thank you to them, and thank you to all of you here today. Because I gotta tell y'all, I think about someone like Angela Davis, when she said, I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change, but I'm changing the things I cannot accept. My question for you, Democratic Black Caucus, is can you accept gun violence? No. I didn't hear you. Can you accept gun violence? No. Can we accept attacks on Black history? No. Can we accept this book banning? No. Can we accept attacks on our civil rights? No. Well, it sounds like we got a lot of work to do. And family, I'm here to tell you today, I am here to do this work with you. And I know the other electeds are here to do it as well. Because in order to win, we gotta organize. Because when we organize, we win. When we organize, we win. And I'll tell you that despite what they say, when the bigotry seeps from their lips, we organize. No matter what they do, when they ban the books, we organize. No matter how they try to change the lines to make sure certain people aren't represented, we organize. And at the end of the day, when we organize, we win. And that's because I know we will win. We have an opposition that tries to use faith to cover their inaction.
Oh, say that again.
But I read somewhere growing up that faith without works is dead. And I can tell you this, if we don't act on gun violence, our children will have that same result, be dead. Because we currently live in a country where if you're a child and you would have died before the age of 18, the most likely reason of your death is because of a bullet.
Yeah, that's right.
That's not acceptable to me. That shows a failure in government. So, I'm just here today to give you all your flowers, to talk about the work we have ahead, to tell you I'm here to do that work with you at Democratic Black Caucus as long as we organize. We knock every damn door. We call every member. We lead with love. We will win, because when we organize, we win. Thank you so much. God bless you.
All right, those were some of the guest speakers at the Caucus, the Democratic Black Caucus Conference that was celebrating their 40th year this past weekend at the Rosen here in Orlando, that was entitled Remembering the Past, Fight for Our Future. I hope that you took the time to really pay attention and to understand how important it is and the work that needs to be done. This is the Journey 2020. I'm Charles Morrison. We've been around since 2013. As my co-host used to say, the journey is from me to you and from you to me, so we can reach a higher level. We get serious here sometimes, and a lot of times we're not so serious. We do a lot of fun things. But this is serious stuff. And so I do hope that you take the time to try to better understand, put yourself in the position to try to get people to realize how important it is for you to register to vote. And this is what I say. This is what I believe. When you don't vote, you vote. Okay? Either way, when you come out to vote, you vote. When you don't come out to vote, you vote. You voting for the other people, the other candidate. When you don't vote, that's a vote. Okay? And so when you don't understand what that means, because there's power in your vote, and you don't understand that, that's why they do what they do, because they understand the power in it. It's been said 1,000 times over again. When you don't vote, that is a vote. It's a vote for the other candidate. And we need to better understand that and do a better job of empowering ourselves to put people in position that care about what's important to us. If you don't care, I don't know what else to tell you. If your eyes are not open, if you haven't been paying attention to what's going on in this country in this time today, the fight is real. Good versus evil is real. And I don't know what else has to happen in order for you to step into the realm of reality. Kudos to the Democratic Black Caucus for putting together a great event. And all I can say is that I hope that people will wake up, their eyes will open, footsteps will be taken for the action that needed in order for us to try to do better and get things right for all of us. You need to understand what that means. But anyway, this is the Journey 2020, where we come to you every Monday at 7 p.m. And for questions, comments, or concerns, you can always hit me up with an email, always. And as I always say, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of the Lord. People, enjoy the rest of the week. You be blessed.